When did you realize someone hated you enough to ruin your life? I'm staring at Jessica's engagement invitation, my hands trembling as I read the gold embossed words for the 100th time. Asterisk Jessica Marie Collins and Thomas Alexander Whitmore III cordially invite you to celebrate their engagement. Asterisk the irony burns. 6 months ago, I should have been planning my own wedding reception. Instead, I'm sitting in my studio apartment above a laundromat, surrounded by 3 bankers' boxes of evidence that prove my former best friend has spent the last 2 years systematically destroying my life. The invitation arrived yesterday, forwarded from my old address, the beautiful downtown loft I was evicted from 8 months ago. Jessica probably hand-delivered it herself, knowing exactly where it would end up. She always was thorough like that. It's the same attention to detail she used when she called my boss pretending to be from Mercy General Hospital to report that I'd been admitted for erratic behavior and substance abuse. I lost my job at TechFlow Solutions the next day. Fired for concerning personal conduct that reflects poorly on company values. I had the recording of that call. Jessica didn't know that Marcus, the security guard at my old building, had become suspicious of the strange woman who kept asking detailed questions about my schedule. He started documenting everything, including phone conversations he overheard her making from the lobby payphone. When I finally pieced things together 3 months ago, Marcus handed me a USB drive and said, I knew something wasn't right about that girl. The worst part? I defended her. When my fiancé David came to me last October with concerns about my behavior, I laughed it off. When he said Jessica had shown him photos of pill bottles she claimed to find in my purse, I told him she was just being a protective friend. When he called off our wedding 2 weeks later, sobbing about how he couldn't watch me destroy myself, I begged him to reconsider. I never suspected that Jessica had been feeding him lies for months, playing the role of a concerned best friend who was trying to save him from making a terrible mistake. I should have known something was wrong at my bachelorette party in Vegas. Jessica kept pushing drinks on me all night, then disappeared for an hour around midnight. The next morning, she was the one who suggested we cut the trip short because I was acting unpredictable. She posted carefully curated photos on social media, pictures that made me look drunk and out of control, while she appeared angelic and concerned in the background. David saw those photos. So did my coworkers. So did my landlord, Mrs. Patterson, who mentioned them when she served me with eviction papers. But I know the truth now. Jessica's been jealous since college, maybe longer. While I was building my career and planning my future with David, she was working part-time retail and living with her parents. She always made comments, little digs about how lucky I was, how things came so easily to me. I thought it was just insecurity. I never imagined she was capable of this level of calculated destruction. The engagement party is this Saturday. Black tie, country club, 200 guests including everyone from our old friend group. The same people who've been avoiding my calls for months, convinced by Jessica's whisper campaign that I've had some sort of breakdown. Thomas's parents will be there too, the Whitmores, who made their fortune in real estate and have very particular opinions about the kind of woman suitable for their son. Jessica thinks she's one. She has my old life, my old friends, and a wealthy fiancé whose family already has reservations about her background. She doesn't know about the boxes. She doesn't know about Marcus. She doesn't know that I've spent 4 months becoming a detective in my own life, unraveling every lie she's told. Saturday night, I'm going to return the favor. The hardest part wasn't losing my job or my apartment, it was losing Emma. Emma Rodriguez had been my friend since freshman year of college. We'd been through everything together, organic chemistry disasters, terrible boyfriends, late-night study sessions fueled by energy drinks and desperation. She was supposed to be my other bridesmaid, the one who'd stand beside Jessica at the altar while I married David. 3 weeks after my engagement fell apart, Emma called me. I was so relieved to hear from her that I started crying before she even spoke. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me, she said, her voice strained. Are you using again? Using again. The words hit me like a physical blow. What are you talking about? I've never, Emma, you know I don't even take Advil unless I'm desperate. Jessica showed me the photos from Vegas. And she said this isn't the first time. That you had problems in college, but you hid it really well. She's been covering for you for years. I pressed my phone so hard against my ear that it hurt. Emma, that's insane. You lived with me junior year. You would have known if I was. She said you were functional. High functioning. And that lately it's gotten worse. The missed calls, the weird texts at 3 a.m., showing up late to things. Emma's voice cracked. She's really worried about you, Sarah. We all are. That's when I realized how brilliant Jessica really was. She hadn't just told one big lie, she'd woven a tapestry of small, believable details. The missed calls were from when I was working late on the Morrison project. The weird texts were probably sent from a spoof number. And showing up late? I'd been late to exactly 2 things in the past year, Emma's birthday dinner, because David and I had been fighting about wedding venues, and book club, because my car wouldn't start. But Jessica had taken these normal, explainable moments and crafted them into a narrative of decline. A story where she was the loyal friend desperately trying to help, while I was the one spiraling out of control. I tried to explain, but Emma had already made up her mind. I think you should get help, she said quietly. Professional help. And maybe we should take a break from talking until you do. She hung up before I could respond. That night, I called Marcus for the first time. I'd gotten his number from Mrs. Patterson's nephew, who worked maintenance in my old building. I was grasping at straws, desperate for anyone who might have noticed something unusual about Jessica's frequent visits. Miss Chen? His voice was gravelly, tired. Yeah, I remember you. Nice girl. Always said hello, never caused trouble. Not like that friend of yours. My heart started racing. What do you mean? The blonde one. Collins, right? She was here a lot those last few months. Always asking questions about your schedule, your visitors. Said she was planning surprise parties or some such nonsense. Marcus paused. But she also spent a lot of time talking on that payphone in the lobby. Long conversations. I heard bits and pieces. Like what? Well, there was one call where she was pretending to be someone else. Different voice, real official sounding. Said something about a patient admission and erratic behavior. Thought it was strange at the time. I nearly dropped the phone. Marcus, this is important. Do you remember exactly what she said? Some of it. I started paying attention after the third or fourth weird call. Even recorded a few on my phone, just in case. Something didn't smell right about that girl. That was 4 months ago. Now I have 12 recorded conversations, 37 screenshots of fake social media accounts Jessica created to spread rumors, and a paper trail that connects her to every disaster in my life since March 2022. Saturday can't come fast enough. The worst revelation came last Tuesday, when I finally worked up the courage to call David. I'd been putting it off for months, terrified of what I might discover. But I needed to know exactly what Jessica had told him. I needed his side of the story for Saturday night. He answered on the fourth ring, his voice cautious. Sarah? Is everything okay? Hearing him say my name made my chest tighten. We'd been together for 3 years. I'd memorized the way he hummed while making coffee, how he left little notes in my lunch bag, the face he made when he was trying not to laugh at his own terrible jokes. I'm fine, David. I need to ask you about some things Jessica told you. Before you called off the wedding. The silence stretched for so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he sighed. Sarah, I don't think this is healthy. You need to move on. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Another pause. Okay. 5 minutes. I pulled out my notebook. I'd learned to document everything. You said Jessica showed you photos of pill bottles in my purse. Do you still have those photos? I deleted them after everything happened. Jessica said keeping them would just make it harder for you to get clean. Of course she did. What exactly did the bottles look like? Do you remember the labels? Sarah. Please, David. Just tell me what you remember. He was quiet for a moment. There were 3 bottles. Prescription bottles. One looked like Adderall, maybe? And something for anxiety. Jessica said she found them buried under your makeup bag after your birthday dinner in September. My birthday dinner. September 15th, at Romano's. I remembered that night perfectly because it was when David first seemed distant, distracted. Jessica had insisted on taking photos all evening, even in the restaurant bathroom. She'd asked to borrow my purse to touch up her lipstick. Did you ever actually see me take anything? Even once? No, but Jessica explained that too. She said you were really good at hiding it. That you'd learned to time everything so nobody would notice. The manipulation was breathtaking. Jessica had created a completely unfalsifiable narrative, evidence that couldn't be disproven because the absence of evidence was itself evidence of how good I was at hiding things. What else did she tell you? She said you'd been struggling since college, but it got worse after the promotion at TechFlow. The pressure, the long hours. She was worried the wedding planning was making everything worse. His voice softened. She cried, Sarah. She said she didn't know what to do anymore, that she felt like she was losing her best friend. I gripped the phone tighter. Did she ever suggest you should break up with me? No. Never. Actually, she kept saying how much she wanted the wedding to happen, how happy you were with me. She said she was telling me because she hoped I could help you get treatment before. David's voice trailed off. Before what? Before you hurt yourself. Or someone else. The room started spinning. Jessica hadn't just destroyed my relationship, she'd made David believe he was saving my life by leaving me. She'd turned my fiancé into another weapon against me, convinced him that abandoning me was an act of love. David, what if I told you none of it was true? What if I could prove Jessica made everything up? Sarah, please don't do this. I know it's hard, but you need to accept. I have recordings, David. I have proof. The line went dead. I called back 3 times, but it went straight to voicemail. That night, I got a text from an unknown number, *, stop calling David. You're only making things worse for yourself. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. J*. She was still monitoring my life. Still watching. Still pulling strings I didn't even know existed. 4 days until the party. 4 days until I pulled down her entire house of cards. I spent Wednesday night going through the evidence boxes one more time, making sure everything was organized for Saturday. That's when I found the email I'd almost forgotten about, buried in a folder of screenshots from March 2022, right when everything started falling apart. It was from TechFlow's HR department, sent to my personal account 2 days after I was fired. The subject line read, additional information regarding your termination. I'd been too devastated to read it thoroughly at the time, but now every word felt crucial. Dear Ms. Chen. For your request for clarification regarding the circumstances of your dismissal, please be advised that the decision was made following a phone call received on March 14th at approximately 2:47 p.m. from Mercy General Hospital. The caller, identifying herself as Nurse Patricia Holbrook, reported that you had been admitted for evaluation following an incident of erratic behavior in their parking garage. She specifically mentioned concerns about substance abuse and stated that you had listed TechFlow Solutions as your emergency contact, *. We attempted to reach you directly but received no response to our calls or emails. Given the serious nature of the allegations and our company's zero-tolerance policy regarding substance abuse, we made the difficult decision to terminate your employment effective immediately, *. If you believe this information was reported in error, we encourage you to provide documentation from Mercy General Hospital contradicting these claims. Sincerely, Margaret Santos, HR Director. I read it 3 times before the implications fully hit me. Jessica hadn't just made a random anonymous call, she'd impersonated a specific nurse at a specific hospital. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment lie, it was premeditated identity theft. I grabbed my laptop and started searching. Patricia Holbrook was a real person, a real nurse who worked in Mercy General's psychiatric evaluation unit. Her LinkedIn profile showed she'd been there for 12 years. Jessica had done her homework, found a credible name and department that would make her story believable. But Jessica had made one mistake. The incident allegedly happened in Mercy General's parking garage, but their psychiatric unit was on the 7th floor of the main building. Why would a nurse from the psych ward be involved in a parking garage incident? I called Mercy General's main line Thursday morning, my heart hammering as I waited for someone to pick up. Mercy General Hospital, how may I direct your call? Hi, I need to speak with someone about a possible case of identity theft involving one of your employees. Someone has been impersonating Nurse Patricia Holbrook from your psychiatric unit. 20 minutes later, I was transferred to their security department. 30 minutes after that, I had a recorded statement from Patricia Holbrook herself, confirming that she had never made any calls to TechFlow Solutions and had no knowledge of any Sarah Chin. This is very serious, the security director, Mr. James Walsh, told me. Impersonating medical personnel is a federal crime. We'll need to file a police report. I understand. But I need to ask, is there any way to trace who might have gotten Nurse Holbrook's name and department information? Our staff directory isn't public, but some information is available online through professional networks. However, someone would need to know specifically to look for psychiatric services. That suggests they had some familiarity with our hospital structure. My blood went cold. What do you mean? Well, most people calling to make false reports would claim to be from the emergency room or general medical. Choosing psychiatric services specifically shows knowledge of how these evaluations work, what language to use to make it sound credible. Jessica's cousin Rachel worked as a medical billing specialist at Mercy General. I remembered Jessica mentioning it at a party last year, complaining about how boring Rachel's job was, how she spent all day dealing with insurance forms and patient files. I spent Thursday afternoon building a timeline. Rachel had started working at Mercy General in January 2022, 2 months before my life started imploding. Jessica had visited her at the hospital for lunch at least 3 times, according to photos on her Instagram. She'd even posted a selfie in the lobby with a caption supporting my brilliant cousin at work. Hashtag Mercy General, hashtag family first. The pieces were falling into place, but each revelation made Jessica's betrayal feel more calculated, more devastating. This wasn't jealousy spiraling out of control, this was a methodical campaign of destruction that had taken months of planning. Friday evening, less than 24 hours before the party, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Emma's name. Sarah? Her voice was shaky, uncertain. I think I need to talk to you. 3 days until justice. 3 days until everyone sees who Jessica really is. Emma, what's wrong? I clutched the phone, not daring to hope that maybe, finally, someone was starting to see through Jessica's lies. I'm at Jessica's apartment helping her get ready for tomorrow night, and Sarah. I found something. Emma's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I was looking for bobby pins in her desk drawer and there's this whole folder of stuff about you. Photos, printed emails, like, a lot of stuff. My heart started racing. What kind of photos? The Vegas ones, but also others I've never seen before. Pictures of you that look. I don't know, staged? Like someone was trying to make you look bad on purpose. Emma paused, and I could hear Jessica's laugh in the background. And there are notes. Handwritten notes about your work schedule, David's routines, even what time you usually got home. I grabbed my pen, hands shaking. Emma, this is important. Can you take pictures of what you're seeing? I can't, she's right in the other room trying on jewelry. But Sarah, there's something else. I found a burner phone hidden under some papers. It had text messages to numbers I don't recognize, and they were all about you. Horrible things about drug problems and erratic behavior. The burner phone. Of course Jessica had been smart enough to use a separate device for the worst of her sabotage. Do you remember any of the numbers? One of them. Sarah, one of them was David's number. The messages were from last October, right before your wedding got called off. She was texting him photos and saying things like, I'm really worried about her, and I found these in her car this morning. But the photos were of pill bottles on some random car seat, not even your car. My vision blurred with tears of rage and vindication. Emma, you have to believe me now. I never had any pills. I never had any problems. Jessica has been. I know. Emma's voice cracked. God, Sarah, I know. I'm looking at months of evidence that she's been systematically lying about you. There's even a timeline written in her handwriting with dates and plans for different things she was going to do. What kind of plans? Things like call TechFlow March 14th, use hospital story, and plant pills for D to find birthday dinner September 15th, and get Rachel to confirm hospital details. Sarah, this is insane. This is like stalker-level obsession. The confirmation that she planned everything, down to using her own cousin's workplace to make her lies more believable, made me feel sick. Where is she right now? Getting dressed. She has no idea I found any of this. Emma's voice got even quieter. She's been talking about you all evening. About how glad she is that you're getting help and how she hopes she'll find peace. She's still lying to my face even now. Emma, I need you to listen to me carefully. Tomorrow night at the party, I'm going to expose everything she's done. I have evidence, recordings, proof of all of it. But if you can somehow get photos of what you're seeing right now. Sarah, did you find the bobby pins? Jessica's voice rang out clearly through the phone. I have to go, Emma whispered frantically. She's coming back. But Sarah, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry I didn't believe you. Just be careful tomorrow night, okay? And Emma? I took a deep breath. Thank you. Thank you for finally seeing the truth. The line went dead just as I heard Jessica asking Emma who she'd been talking to. 18 hours until the party. 18 hours until I destroy the person who destroyed me. Saturday morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Emma. My phone had been on silent, and panic shot through me as I saw the timestamps. The calls had started at 2:47 a.m. and continued until 6:15 a.m. I called her back immediately, my hands trembling as I waited for her to pick up. Sarah, thank God. Emma's voice was raw, like she'd been crying for hours. Jessica knows. She knows I found everything. The world tilted. What happened? After I hung up with you, she came back into the room and asked who I'd been talking to. I said it was my mom, but she didn't believe me. She grabbed my phone and saw your number in the call log. Emma's breath was shaky. Sarah, she completely lost it. Started screaming about how you were trying to manipulate people against her, how you were having a psychotic break and trying to drag everyone down with you. Did she admit to anything? No, but she didn't deny it either. She just kept saying that everything she did was to protect people from you, that I didn't understand how dangerous you'd become. Emma paused. Then she made me sit down and showed me everything in that folder. Not hiding it anymore, but explaining it. Like she was proud of what she'd done. My stomach dropped. What did she say? She said you'd always been jealous of her, that you couldn't handle her success with Thomas. That you'd been stalking her and spreading lies about her to mutual friends. She showed me edited screenshots of text messages that supposedly proved you were obsessed with ruining her relationship. The audacity was breathtaking. Jessica had taken her own crimes and projected them onto me, creating an alternate reality where I was the unstable villain and she was the innocent victim. Emma, please tell me you don't believe her. Of course I don't believe her. I saw the timeline, Sarah. I saw her handwritten plans to destroy your life. But she's convinced that what she did was justified. She kept saying things like Sarah needed to learn consequences and some people have to lose everything before they can get help. I sank into my kitchen chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of Jessica's delusion. She'd spent 2 years systematically sabotaging my life, but somehow convinced herself she was the hero of this story. There's more, Emma continued. She called Thomas this morning and told him you'd been harassing her. She said you might try to cause trouble at the party tonight, that you've been making threats. I haven't contacted her once since this all started. I know that, but Thomas doesn't. And neither do his parents. Jessica painted this whole picture of you as an unstable ex-friend who can't accept that she's moved on and found happiness. Emma's voice turned urgent. Sarah, they're hiring extra security for tonight. Jessica specifically requested that they watch for you and escort you out if you cause any disturbance. My carefully planned confrontation was crumbling before it could even happen. If Jessica had security watching for me, if she'd already primed Thomas and his family to see me as a threat, how could I possibly get close enough to present my evidence? She's trying to make sure you can't get near her tonight, Emma said, echoing my thoughts. But Sarah, I want to help. What can I do? I stared at the 3 boxes of evidence sitting on my coffee table, months of painstaking investigation that might never see the light of day. I don't know if there's anything anyone can do now. She's always one step ahead. No, Emma said fiercely. She's not. Because she doesn't know that I believe you, and she doesn't know that I took pictures. My heart stopped. You took pictures? After she fell asleep, I went back to that folder. I photographed everything I could, the timeline, the notes about David, the fake social media accounts she created, even the burner phone screen. It's not everything, but it's enough to prove she's been lying. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope. Emma, you could have put yourself in danger doing that. I don't care. What she did to you, what she did to David, to your job, your home, it's evil, Sarah. Someone needs to stop her. I looked at the engagement party invitation still sitting on my table, at the address of the Riverside Country Club printed in elegant script. Tonight, Jessica expected to celebrate her victory surrounded by all the people she'd turned against me. She thought she'd neutralized the threat, isolated me completely. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd assumed that finding her evidence folder would scare Emma away, just like it had scared everyone else. Instead, it had created an ally, someone with access to the party, to the guests, to Jessica herself. Emma, I said slowly, how would you feel about being my inside agent tonight? The party started at 7. At 6:45 p.m., I was going to find out if 2 years of careful planning could be undone in a single evening, or if Jessica Morrison had finally met her match. At 6:47 p.m., I'm sitting in my car outside the Riverside Country Club, watching guests and evening wear stream through the ornate entrance. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma, *I'm inside. Jessica looks nervous. She keeps checking the door, *. Good. She should be nervous. I'm wearing the black cocktail dress I bought for my rehearsal dinner, the one that never happened. It felt like the right choice for tonight, a reminder of everything she stole from me. In my purse, I have printed copies of the most damning evidence, the timeline Emma photographed, Marcus's recorded conversations, and the sworn statement from Nurse Patricia Holbrook at Mercy General. My hands are shaking, but not from fear anymore. From anticipation. At 7:15, Emma texts again, * Thomas's parents are holding court by the bar. His mother, Patricia Whitmore, looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. Keep hearing whispers about background concerns. *. I remember Jessica complaining about the Whitmores during our friendship. How Patricia made subtle digs about Jessica's retail job, how Thomas's father questioned whether she was marriage material for their son. Jessica had been desperate to prove herself worthy of their old money approval. She's been talking to everyone about you, Emma's next message reads. * telling people you tried to contact her this week, making threats. She's playing the victim perfectly, *. Of course she is. Jessica has had 2 years to perfect her performance. At 7:32, I finally get out of my car. The valet looks surprised when I hand him my keys. My beat-up Honda doesn't exactly fit the aesthetic of Maseratis and Mercedes lining the driveway. Will you be staying long, miss? Just long enough, I tell him. The country club lobby is all marble and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place Jessica always dreamed of belonging to. I can hear laughter and conversation flowing from the ballroom, the sound of people celebrating what they think is a love story. I spot the security guards immediately, 2 men in suits positioned near the ballroom entrance, clearly briefed to watch for troublemakers. Jessica's insurance policy against me. But she forgot that I used to be a software engineer. I know there's always more than one way into any system. I find a service corridor near the kitchen, following the sound of catering staff preparing hors d'oeuvres. Nobody questions a well-dressed woman walking purposefully through the back areas. I slip through a service entrance that opens directly behind the stage where a jazz quartet is playing. The ballroom is magnificent, 200 guests mingling under soft lighting, champagne flowing freely. I spot Jessica immediately, radiant in a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She's standing with Thomas near the head table, accepting congratulations and playing the part of the blushing bride-to-be. She hasn't seen me yet, but several other people have. I watch recognition dawn on their faces, followed quickly by discomfort. These are people who used to be my friends, who now cross the room to avoid me. My phone buzzes with a text from Emma, * she just told the Whitmores that you're dangerous when cornered. Patricia Whitmore asked if they should call the police *. Perfect. Jessica is so busy painting me as unstable that she's making the Whitmores question her judgment. Why would a stable, happy person have such a dangerous ex-friend? What kind of drama is Jessica bringing into their family? I make my way slowly through the crowd, staying close to the walls, avoiding the security guard's sightlines. Several people notice me and whisper to their companions. The energy in the room is starting to shift, tension rippling outward like stones dropped in still water. At 8:15, Jessica finally spots me. Her face goes pale, then immediately hardens into the expression I've seen in my nightmares for months. She leans over to whisper something urgent in Thomas's ear, and I see him scan the room until his eyes land on mine. Game time. Thomas starts walking toward me, his jaw set in determination. Two security guards fall into step behind him, and I realize Jessica's endgame. She's going to have me escorted out before I can say a single word. All my evidence, all my planning, meaningless if I can't get close enough to reveal the truth. But Emma appears at Thomas's elbow before he reaches me. Thomas, wait, she says loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. Before you do anything, there's something you need to know about your fiancé. The words hit like a thunderclap. Conversations around us pause, heads turning toward the unfolding drama. This isn't how I planned it, but Emma's forcing the moment before Jessica can control it. Emma, not now, Thomas says, but his voice carries uncertainty. Jessica warned me this might happen. Sarah's been making threats. What threats? Emma's voice cuts through his explanation. Show me one text, one voicemail, one piece of evidence that Sarah has contacted Jessica in the past 6 months. Thomas falters, clearly expecting accusations, not requests for proof. Jessica said. Jessica says a lot of things. Emma pulls out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. Did she tell you about the timeline? What timeline? Patricia Whitmore has appeared beside her son, her voice sharp with concern. The elder Whitmores didn't build their fortune by ignoring red flags. Emma holds up her phone, showing a photo of handwritten notes in Jessica's distinctive looping script. The timeline where she planned exactly how to destroy Sarah's life. Call TechFlow March 14th, use hospital story. Plant pills for D to find birthday dinner September 15th, get Rachel to confirm hospital details. The security guards have stopped advancing, clearly unsure whether this constitutes a disturbance they should handle. More guests are gathering now, drawn by the commotion. I spot David near the dessert table, his face pale with recognition. That's impossible, Thomas says, but his voice wavers. Jessica would never. There's more. Emma swipes to another photo. Phone records from a burner phone Jessica hid in her apartment. Text messages to David with fake photos, messages to Sarah's landlord claiming she was dealing drugs, calls to multiple employers spreading rumors about erratic behavior. Patricia Whitmore's expression has shifted from annoyance to cold calculation. Thomas, I think we need to examine this evidence more carefully. That's when Jessica finally pushes through the crowd, her face a mask of wounded betrayal. Emma, how could you? Her voice trembles with practiced hurt. I trusted you with my private concerns about Sarah's mental health, and you're twisting everything to make me look like the villain. It's a masterful performance. Jessica's eyes well with tears as she turns to the growing audience. Sarah has been stalking me for months. She can't accept that I'm happy, that I found love with Thomas. She's trying to turn my closest friends against me. Several guests nod sympathetically. Jessica's version sounds plausible, fits the narrative of a jealous ex-friend causing drama at an engagement party. For a moment, I think she might actually pull it off again. Then David steps forward. Jessica, he says quietly, why didn't you tell me you found pills in Sarah's car instead of her purse? The question hangs in the air like a blade. Jessica's composure cracks for just a fraction of a second, long enough for everyone to see the calculation behind her tears. What do you mean, she stammers. You just said Emma was twisting your private concerns about Sarah's mental health. But Emma mentioned text messages about finding pills in a car. You told me you found them in Sarah's purse at her birthday dinner. David's voice grows stronger with each word. So which story is true, Jessica? The contradiction ripples through the crowd like a shockwave. Jessica realizes her mistake. She's been telling so many different versions of her lies that she can't keep them straight under pressure. David, you're confused, she says desperately. The stress of seeing Sarah again is making you misremember. No. David pulls out his own phone. I'm remembering perfectly. Because I never deleted those photos you sent me. The ballroom falls silent except for the soft jazz quartet, who seem oblivious to the drama unfolding 20 feet away. David's fingers shake as he scrolls through his phone, and I can see Jessica's face cycling through emotions, panic, rage, calculation, as she tries to figure out how to salvage this. Here, David says, turning his phone toward Thomas and his parents. 3 photos Jessica sent me on September 16th at 11:47 p.m. She said she found these pill bottles in Sarah's purse during dinner at Romano's. Patricia Whitmore takes the phone, her reading glasses catching the chandelier light as she examines the screen. These bottles are sitting on a black leather car seat. The background shows a parking garage, not a restaurant table or purse interior. That's not possible, Jessica says, but her voice has lost its tremulous quality. She sounds flat now, mechanical. David, you're looking at the wrong photos. No, Emma interjects, holding up her phone again. These are exactly the photos referenced in your timeline. September 15th, plant pills for D to find. You wrote down the wrong date, Jessica. You texted David the photos a day after you claimed to find them. The crowd around us has grown to at least 50 people. I spot Marcus near the back, dear Marcus, who insisted on coming tonight to support me despite having no formal invitation. He catches my eye and nods toward the ballroom's main entrance, where more security guards are stationed. We're running out of time before someone decides this has gone too far. Thomas looks like he's been physically struck. Jessica, please tell me there's an explanation for this. For a moment, I think she might finally break down and confess. Her carefully constructed facade is crumbling in real time, and she knows it. But then her eyes find mine across the circle of onlookers, and the naked hatred in them takes my breath away. You want to know the truth? Jessica's voice cuts through the silence like a knife. Fine. Sarah Chan has always been a selfish, manipulative person who takes credit for other people's work and thinks she's better than everyone else. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. This isn't the direction anyone expected. She got that job at TechFlow because I helped her practice for the interview. She got David because I introduced them at my birthday party. She got that apartment because I co-signed her lease when her credit wasn't good enough. Jessica's voice rises with each accusation. Everything good in her life came from me, and she never once said thank you. That's not, I start to speak, but Jessica talks over me. So yes, I made some phone calls. Yes, I shared some concerns with people who cared about her. Because someone needed to show her that actions have consequences. Jessica turns to address the crowd directly now, her voice taking on an almost evangelical fervor. Sarah thought she could just coast through life taking advantage of people's kindness. Well, I taught her what it feels like to lose everything. The confession hangs in the air like smoke. Several guests gasp audibly. Patricia Whitmore's face has gone ashen, and Thomas looks like he might be sick. Jesus Christ, Jessica, David whispers. You destroyed her life because you felt underappreciated? I gave her opportunities to make it right, Jessica continues, seemingly unaware of how her words are landing. I waited for her to acknowledge what I'd done for her, to show some gratitude. But even after losing her job, her apartment, her fiancé, she still acted like she was the victim. That's when Thomas finally speaks, his voice barely above a whisper. My God. You're actually proud of what you did. The look of dawning horror on his face seems to break through Jessica's manic justification. She realizes, too late, that she's just confessed to 2 years of systematic harassment in front of 200 witnesses, including his parents, his business associates, and half the social elite of our city. Thomas, you don't understand, she says desperately, reaching for his arm. She deserved it. Don't touch me. Thomas steps backwards so quickly he nearly stumbles. Don't ever touch me again. The security guards are moving toward us now, clearly deciding this has escalated beyond acceptable party drama. But Patricia Whitmore holds up a perfectly manicured hand to stop them. Wait, she says, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. I want to hear the rest of this. Jessica's eyes dart between Thomas's horrified face and his mother's cold stare. She's finally realizing that her confession might have been a tactical error. Mrs. Whitmore, I can explain, Jessica starts, but Patricia cuts her off. Oh, I think you've explained quite enough, dear. The endearment drips with ice. You've just admitted to deliberately sabotaging someone's employment, housing, and personal relationships. In front of a room full of witnesses. She turns to her husband. Robert, didn't the Hendersons have similar issues with their son's previous fiancée? The girl who turned out to be running credit card fraud? The comparison hits Jessica like a physical blow. I can see her trying to recalibrate, to find some way back to victimhood, but Thomas speaks before she can form the words. The hospital, he says suddenly. You said you called her work pretending to be from a hospital. Jessica, my mother volunteers at Mercy General. She's been on their board for 12 years. Patricia Whitmore's expression shifts to something approaching fascination. Mercy General, you said? How interesting. Impersonating medical personnel is a federal offense. We take that very seriously. Jessica's face goes chalk white. I never said Mercy General specifically. Yes, you did, Emma interrupts, holding up her phone again. It's right here in your timeline. Use Rachel's hospital info, Mercy General Psych Ward. She looks up at Patricia. Rachel Collins, Jessica's cousin, works in medical billing there. I watch Patricia Whitmore's mind work, connecting dots with the precision of someone who spent decades in business and philanthropy. So you used insider information from a family member to commit what amounts to wire fraud and identity theft. She turns to Thomas. Darling, I believe we need to reconsider whether this young woman has the judgment necessary to be part of our family. That's when Jessica completely loses it. You people don't understand anything, she shrieks, her voice echoing off the ballroom's high ceiling. Sarah had everything handed to her. Perfect job, perfect fiancé, perfect apartment. While I worked retail and lived with my parents, she acted like she earned it all herself. Because she did earn it, David says quietly, but his words carry clearly in the sudden silence. Jessica, Sarah worked 60-hour weeks on that Morrison project. She studied for months before applying to TechFlow. She saved for 2 years to afford that apartment deposit. With my help. Jessica whirls on him. I edited her resume. I helped her pick out interview outfits. I listened to her practice her presentation. And that means you owned her? David's voice is gaining strength. That means you had the right to destroy her life when she didn't grovel enough? The jazz quartet has finally stopped playing. The entire ballroom feels suspended in time, 200 people watching a woman's complete psychological breakdown in real time. Marcus appears at my elbow, speaking in a low voice. Miss Chen, hotel security is calling the police. Someone reported a disturbance. Good. Let them come. Let them hear Jessica's confession firsthand, see the evidence Emma and I have compiled. For the first time in 2 years, the authorities might actually listen to my side of the story. Sarah, Thomas says suddenly, his voice carrying across the space between us. I owe you an apology. We all do. But Jessica isn't finished yet. She spins toward me, her face contorted with 2 years' worth of suppressed rage. You think you've won? She hisses. You think this changes anything? Everyone still knows what you really are. That's when I finally speak, my voice steady and clear. What am I, Jessica? Tell everyone what I really am. Jessica's face twists into something I barely recognize. You're a parasite, she spits, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. You latch onto people and drain them dry, then act shocked when they finally see through your act. The words are so divorced from reality that several guests actually laugh, short, uncomfortable sounds that make Jessica's eyes flash with renewed fury. You want proof, she continues, her voice getting shriller. Ask David why he really called off the wedding. Ask him about the credit cards. My blood turns to ice. David's face goes pale beside me, and I see Thomas's parents exchange a meaningful look. Whatever Jessica's about to say, it's something she's been saving as her nuclear option. What credit cards? Patricia Whitmore asks, her voice dangerously quiet. Jessica's smile is triumphant, vicious. The one Sarah opened in David's name. 3 different cards, maxed out on designer clothes and expensive dinners. I found the statements hidden in her apartment when I was helping her pack for Vegas. The lie is so audacious, so completely fabricated, that for a moment I'm speechless. But David isn't. That's insane, Jessica. Sarah never had access to my credit information. She didn't even know my social security number until we filled out the marriage license paperwork. Then explain the statements I showed you, Jessica shoots back. October 15th, Nordstrom, $2,400. October 22nd, Lou Bernardine, $380. November 3rd, Tiffany & Company, $1,200. All charged to your American Express. The specific details make her lie sound credible, and I can see doubt flickering across some faces in the crowd. This is how Jessica has always operated, burying her fabrications in a mountain of precise, verifiable-sounding information. But David pulls out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. October 15th, Nordstrom, $2,400, he reads aloud. That was your birthday shopping trip, Jessica. You said Thomas was taking you somewhere fancy and you needed a new dress. I was with you when you picked it out. Jessica's triumphant expression falters. David, you're confused. October 22nd, Lou Bernardine, $380. Our double date with you and Marcus from your yoga class. You insisted we go somewhere expensive to celebrate your promotion at Saks. David's voice is getting stronger. November 3rd, Tiffany & Company, $1,200. The bracelet you said you were buying for your mother's birthday. The crowd is shifting now, murmurs of understanding rippling through the ballroom. Thomas looks like he's been punched in the stomach. You used David's credit card for your own purchases, then told him Sarah was the one stealing from him, Emma says, holding up her phone. It's all here in your timeline. Use Dee's card for shopping, blame us later if necessary. But Jessica isn't backing down. If anything, she's doubling down on her delusions. I was protecting him. Sarah was manipulating David into paying for everything. Someone had to show him what kind of person he was really marrying. By committing credit card fraud? Patricia Whitmore's voice could freeze hell. By stealing from my son's friend? That's when I noticed Thomas isn't looking shocked anymore, he's looking calculating. His business degree from Wharton is showing as he processes the financial implications of what Jessica's just admitted. Jessica, he says slowly, if you were using David's credit card without permission, what else have you been lying about? Have you been using my cards too? The question hangs in the air like a sword. Jessica's face cycles through emotions before settling on defensive anger. I bought groceries a few times when I was short on cash. You said I could use your account for household expenses. Household expenses, Thomas repeats flatly. Like the $800 spa day last month? The $1,500 shopping trip to Soho? The $3,200 you spent at that jewelry store in the Diamond District? Each amount hits like a physical blow. Jessica's mouth opens and closes soundlessly as she realizes Thomas has been monitoring his accounts more carefully than she thought. Thomas, I can explain all of that, she says desperately. I was planning surprises for you, gifts. What gifts? His voice is ice cold now. Because I've never received any jewelry worth $3,200. And that spa day was with your friends, not for me. I can see the exact moment Thomas realizes that Jessica's manipulation of me was just practice for her manipulation of him. His face goes through the same progression of emotions I remember from those awful weeks when David was pulling away, confusion, hurt, and finally, disgusted clarity. Oh my God, he whispers. You're going to do to me exactly what you did to Sarah. The realization spreads across Thomas's face like spilled ink, and I watched 2 years of Jessica's careful planning crumble in real time. But she's not going down quietly. You're all being manipulated, Jessica says, her voice taking on a desperate edge as she scans the crowd of horrified faces. Can't you see what's happening? Sarah orchestrated this entire scene. She's been planning this for months, probably paying people to lie for her. She points a trembling finger at Emma. She got to Emma somehow, convinced her to betray our friendship. And Marcus, her gaze finds the security guard near the back of the crowd. She probably paid him to make those recordings. It's all fake. The accusation is so absurd that several people actually laugh out loud. But I can see a few faces in the crowd wavering, uncertainty creeping back in. Jessica has always been persuasive, and desperation is making her creative. Thomas, you know me, she continues, her voice softening as she turns back to her fiancé. We've been together 8 months. Have I ever lied to you? Have I ever given you reason not to trust me? Besides the credit card fraud? Thomas's voice is flat. Besides the systematic harassment of your former best friend? Besides impersonating medical personnel? But Jessica presses on as if he hasn't spoken. She's jealous, Thomas. She can't stand that I found happiness after everything she put me through. This whole performance is designed to make you leave me. Patricia Whitmore steps forward, her voice cutting through Jessica's plea like a scalpel. Miss Collins, are you seriously suggesting that your own cousin at Mercy General Hospital is part of this elaborate conspiracy? Jessica's eyes dart wildly. Rachel barely knows Sarah. If someone called pretending to be her. I have Rachel's sworn statement, I interrupt, speaking for the first time in several minutes. My voice carries clearly across the silent ballroom. She confirmed that you asked her detailed questions about psychiatric evaluation procedures. She thought you were just curious about her work. That's not, I never, Jessica stumbles over her words. She also confirmed that you visited her at the hospital 3 times in February and March of 2022, I continue, pulling out my printed evidence. Security footage shows you leaving the administrative wing each time, not the cafeteria where you claimed to be having lunch. Thomas's father, Robert Whitmore, speaks for the first time. His voice carries the authority of someone who spent decades in corporate boardrooms. Miss Collins, I've been listening to this conversation with growing concern. Are you claiming that multiple people, some of whom don't even know each other, have coordinated an elaborate frame job against you? Yes. Jessica's voice cracks. That's exactly what I'm saying. Robert exchanges a look with his wife. In my experience, when someone's story requires that level of coordination among supposed enemies, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. That's when David drops his final bombshell. Jessica, there's one more thing, he says quietly. After you showed me those photos of pill bottles, I was so worried about Sarah that I called her doctor. Dr. Martinez. To ask about intervention resources. Jessica goes very still. What did she tell you? That Sarah had never been prescribed psychiatric medication of any kind. That she'd specifically noted in Sarah's file that Sarah had requested no controlled substances, even for a wisdom tooth extraction. David's voice gets stronger. Dr. Martinez said Sarah was one of the most health-conscious patients she'd ever treated. The final piece of Jessica's narrative collapses. There's no explanation that can reconcile a years-long drug problem with a doctor's records showing the complete opposite. The bottles in those photos, Emma says, consulting her phone, according to your timeline, you bought them at CVS on September 12th. Paid cash, filled with Tic Tacs and aspirin to make them rattle convincingly. Thomas stares at his fiancée like she's a stranger. You bought fake prescription bottles to frame Sarah for drug abuse? Jessica's composure finally shatters completely. She deserved it, she screams, her voice echoing off the ballroom ceiling. Do you know what it's like watching someone coast through life while you work twice as hard for half the recognition? She never appreciated anything. Not her job, not David, not me. The raw honesty of her rage is more damning than any evidence I could have presented. This isn't someone who made mistakes or got carried away. This is someone who genuinely believes she was entitled to destroy another person's life over perceived slights. Police sirens are audible in the distance now, getting closer. The police sirens are getting closer, and I can see panic starting to creep into Jessica's eyes. But she's not done fighting yet. You want to know the real truth, she says, her voice dropping to something almost conversational. I could have stopped at any time. The job, the apartment, even David, I could have let her keep any of those. But she made one mistake that sealed her fate. Thomas takes another step backward, like he's afraid to hear what's coming next. She never once asked if I was okay, Jessica continues, her voice gaining that eerie calm that's somehow more terrifying than her screaming. 3 years I spent watching her succeed while I failed. 3 years of being the supportive best friend while my own life fell apart. And not once, did she ask if I needed help. I feel something cold settle in my stomach. Jessica, you never told me you were struggling. You said you loved working at Saks, that you were excited about living at home to save money. Because that's what you wanted to hear. The calm facade cracks again. Saint Sarah, so generous with her advice and her pity. You would have loved to swoop in and fix my problems, wouldn't you? Make yourself feel even better about how perfect your life was. David shakes his head in disbelief. So you decided to destroy her instead of just asking for help? Help? Jessica laughs, a sound like breaking glass. You think I wanted her help? I wanted her to notice. I wanted her to care enough to see past her own perfect little bubble and realize her best friend was drowning. Patricia Whitmore's expression shifts from disgust to something approaching clinical fascination. So this was all an elaborate cry for attention? This was justice, Jessica snaps. Someone needed to show her what it felt like to lose everything. Someone needed to teach her that actions have consequences. What actions? Emma's voice cuts through the ballroom. What exactly did Sarah do to you besides succeed at things she wanted? That stops Jessica cold. For the first time tonight, she doesn't have an immediate answer. The police sirens have stopped outside the country club. I can hear car doors slamming, voices calling instructions. Marcus appears at my side again. Miss Chen, the officers want to speak with you first. They're setting up in the lobby. But before I can move, Jessica's voice stops me. You know what the funniest part is, she says, and there's something almost gentle in her tone now. I actually felt guilty at first. After the tech flow call, when I saw how devastated you were, I almost confessed. I almost called them back and said it was a mistake. My heart clenches despite everything. For just a moment, I can see the girl who used to be my best friend, the one who cried with me during bad breakups and stayed up all night helping me study for finals. What changed your mind? I asked quietly. Jessica's smile is heartbreaking and terrifying at the same time. You called me that night. Sobbing, asking if I could help you figure out what went wrong. And even then, even in your lowest moment, you still sounded like you believed everything would work out fine. Like the universe owed you a happy ending. She turns to address the crowd, her voice taking on that evangelical fervor again. That's when I realized she'd never learn. She'd just bounce back, find another job, charm her way into another perfect life. Someone had to show her that the world doesn't revolve around Sarah Chen. Thomas's voice is barely a whisper. So you kept going. The apartment, the wedding, everything else. Each step taught her something new, Jessica says proudly. Losing the job taught her about professional consequences. Losing the apartment taught her about financial vulnerability. Losing David. She glances at my ex-fiancé with something approaching fondness. That taught her what it feels like when someone you love decides you're not worth the trouble. The cruelty of it takes my breath away. She didn't just want to hurt me, she wanted to educate me, to systematically strip away everything I valued until I understood her worldview. Heavy footsteps echo from the lobby. The police are here, and Jessica's 2-year campaign of psychological warfare is about to become a criminal matter. But she has one more revelation, and her timing is perfect. The beautiful part, she says, her eyes meeting mine across the crowd, is that it worked exactly like I planned. Look at you now, Sarah. Finally humble. Finally grateful. Finally understanding what the rest of us have always known, that happiness is fragile, and you never deserved it in the first place. The words hit me like physical blows, but something unexpected happens. Instead of crumbling, I feel a surge of crystalline clarity. Jessica's final revelation isn't devastating, it's liberating. Because she's just admitted, in front of 200 witnesses, that everything she did was calculated to break me psychologically. You're absolutely right, Jessica, I say, my voice carrying clearly across the silent ballroom. I am different now. But not in the way you think. Her triumphant expression falters slightly. 2 years ago, I would have blamed myself for this. I would have spent months wondering what I did wrong, how I could have been a better friend, whether I really was as selfish as you claimed. I take a step closer, and she instinctively backs away. But you know what I learned while I was rebuilding my life from nothing? The police officers are entering the ballroom now, but they hold back, clearly sensing this confrontation needs to reach its natural conclusion. I learned that real friends don't punish you for succeeding. They don't keep score of every favor and kindness, waiting for the perfect moment to cash in. And they definitely don't spend 2 years methodically destroying your life because you didn't read their mind about their problems. Jessica's face cycles through emotions, confusion, anger, and something that might be fear. I also learned something else, I continue, pulling out my phone. Marcus wasn't the only one recording conversations. Did you know that New York is a one-party consent state? I can legally record any conversation I'm part of. Her face goes chalk white. You didn't. Oh, but I did. Every word you've said tonight has been streaming live to a private YouTube channel. Emma's been helping me document everything for the past 20 minutes. I hold up my phone, showing the red recording indicator. Including your confession about credit card fraud, identity theft, impersonation of medical personnel, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Thomas stares at me in amazement. You planned this. I plan to present evidence calmly and let people draw their own conclusions, I correct him. Jessica's the one who decided to confess to multiple felonies in front of a room full of witnesses. One of the police officers, a tall woman with sergeant stripes, steps forward. Ma'am, I'm Sergeant Rodriguez. We received reports of a disturbance, but this sounds like it might be more serious than a party argument. Much more serious, Patricia Whitmore interjects smoothly. Officer, I'm Patricia Whitmore, and I sit on the board of Mercy General Hospital. Miss Collins has just confessed to impersonating our medical staff, which I believe is a federal offense. She's also confessed to wire fraud, identity theft, and criminal harassment, David adds, his voice stronger than I've heard it all evening. I have documentation of unauthorized charges on my credit cards going back months. Sergeant Rodriguez's partner is already taking notes, but Jessica makes one last desperate play. They're lying, she shrieks. This is all coordinated. Check their phones, they probably planned this whole thing together. Actually, Emma says pleasantly, holding up her device, I recorded our entire conversation at your apartment yesterday, including the part where you showed me your evidence folder and explained how proud you were of systematically destroying Sarah's life. Would you like me to play that back? The blood drains from Jessica's face so completely I think she might faint. She realizes, finally and completely, that her house of cards hasn't just collapsed, it's been demolished with surgical precision. Ma'am, Sergeant Rodriguez says gently, I think you might want to exercise your right to remain silent at this point. But Jessica has one final surprise left, and it's the most honest thing she said all evening. I'd do it again, she whispers, her eyes locked on mine. Given the chance, Sarah, I'd do all of it again. The courtroom is packed 6 months later when Judge Martinez reads Jessica's sentence aloud. Ms. Collins, you have pleaded guilty to identity theft, wire fraud, criminal harassment, and impersonation of medical personnel. The court sentences you to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation and full restitution to your victims. Jessica sits at the defendant's table in an orange jumpsuit, her perfectly styled hair now pulled back in a simple ponytail. She doesn't look at me when the judge continues. You will also pay $47,000 in damages to Ms. Chen for lost wages, legal fees, and emotional distress, and $12,400 to Mr. Harrison for unauthorized credit card charges. The gavel falls with a satisfying crack. Thomas testified during the preliminary hearing, revealing that Jessica had stolen nearly $8,000 from his accounts in the 2 months before their engagement party. He'd hired a forensic accountant who traced her spending back to the beginning of their relationship. The Whitmore's high-powered legal team made sure every penny was documented for the prosecution. David testified too, finally understanding the full scope of how he'd been manipulated. I thought I was protecting her by leaving, he told the prosecutor. Jessica convinced me that staying would enable Sarah's problems. She made abandoning the woman I loved feel like an act of compassion. TechFlow Solutions offered me my job back with a promotion and a formal apology letter. Marcus got a commendation from the police for his careful documentation of Jessica's activities. Emma and I are closer now than we ever were before. Trauma has a way of clarifying who your real friends are. As we file out of the courthouse, I catch sight of Jessica's parents in the back row. Her mother meets my eyes briefly, and I see something that looks like gratitude mixed with grief. They knew, I realize. They'd probably known for years that something was wrong with Jessica's relationship to other people's happiness. Outside, David is waiting by the courthouse steps. We've been talking again, carefully, tentatively, working through the damage Jessica did to both of us. We're not getting back together, too much has happened for that. But we're learning to be friends again, and that feels like its own kind of victory. How do you feel? He asks as reporters snap photos nearby. Jessica's case made national news. The fake best friend story became a cautionary tale about social media manipulation and toxic friendship. Vindicated, I say honestly. For the first time in 3 years, I feel like the truth actually matters. My phone buzzes with a text from my new boss at TechFlow, Morrison Project 2.0 approved. Team meeting Monday at 9 a.m. Congratulations, Team Lead Chin. Asterisk. The promotion I should have gotten 2 years ago, finally mine. The life I built from scratch after losing everything, stronger now because I know what I'm capable of surviving. Emma appears beside us, grinning. Celebratory lunch? I know a great place, and before you ask, yes, I'm buying. As we walk down the courthouse steps, I think about Jessica's final words to me that night at the country club, asterisk, I'd do it again. Asterisk, the honesty was almost refreshing after years of manipulation and lies. She never apologized, never showed remorse, never pretended she'd made a mistake. Right until the end, she believed I deserved what she did to me. But she was wrong about one thing. She didn't destroy me, she revealed exactly who I am when everything is stripped away. Someone who rebuilds. Someone who fights back. Someone who refuses to let another person's jealousy define her worth. That's worth more than any sentence the judge could have handed down.